what does this marshmallow challenge and us taking time to do this before we jumped into the planning, what do they have to do with one another?
Well, I think this was challenging us to think about our own tendency towards perfectionism and the fact that planning anything is an iterative process. So we have to be comfortable in that space and open to that space of trying things out and seeing where they fit.
Yes, bingo. No other answer needed. Please be iterative in this planning. One, we only have an hour and a half together. I spend multiple days with people doing strategic planning. So this is a light strategic plan. I'm going to set up the structure for you all to know like how to finish it. We are not going to finish it together, but you have the tools that you would need, or at least a template that can support you in doing it. We are going to go through the steps, but the steps are repetitive in the strategic planning process because you basically do the same set of steps for every pillar, every goal, all of that. For the SWOT, I want to point out the strengths and the weaknesses are the same color, the opportunities and the threats are the same color. What did you notice about my questions that tell you why that might be the case? Anything? Okay. That's right. Your strengths and your weaknesses are internal to you. Opportunities and threats are external. So everybody in here, almost everybody, I won't say everybody, almost everybody should have CIAA on their opportunities because that is coming to Baltimore next year. And if you are not preparing for that, to vend for it, to do some sort of service for it, I mean, obviously not everybody's business will benefit from it, but you could think creatively about how you might. Is there some sort of advertising you could do for it, for your business, while it might not be a vending opportunity? So that is coming next year. For me, one of the things that jumped out for me, and so I'm just pointing out opportunities and threats because they are harder. I feel like strengths and weaknesses we get easily, like, oh, you know, we do really good at this. No, we haven't been able to do this. I haven't been able to keep a staff or whatever. Opportunities and threats are harder. So because they are external, they are the things like that are happening in your city, your state, your neighborhood. If an opportunity is if your office is somewhere and this new shopping complex open, like across the street, that is an opportunity. For me, one of mine is the Kerwin Commission, which hopefully you've seen me posting about it, but it's going to be like the hottest thing on the legislative agenda, or it is this session, because it's going to impact everybody's taxes. But it's a new education policy. And I do a lot of my work, most of my work in education, and it is one that is sought to be highly funded so that we can make Maryland a premier district, premier state LEA for schools. So that would be an opportunities for me. So as you're thinking about like what opportunities are, they should absolutely be those like, those are the, you got to keep your ear to the ground kind of things. What's happening? Same with threats. Threats are things that are external to you. It is a shopping center closing near where your business is. It is housing prices going down, Gersha. You know, it's those things that you don't have control of, but you need to be aware of because those opportunities and threats should dictate how you move in some way. Any questions?
So a threat could be like changes in algorithms on social media or something.
Yep.
That's literally
Yes.
sure.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions about that? Y'all seem real intense. We all right? We good? You sure? Where is Dr. Tara? Because it feels intense. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this. Like, this is like making your Christmas list or your birthday list, whatever. You know, this should feel not heavy. This should feel like freedom. Like, yes. So you find themes in your strengths and your weaknesses, both and the opportunities and the threats. So I want you to take a moment and at the bottom of that sheet or whatever, if you print it out or you have it typed, jot down what themes emerge for you. So like one for me might be like processes for things, right? Like I might say like, oh, we're really good at, we're really good at like delivering on time, but like really bad at like managing all the work or whatever. Like so that would be a theme for me. Themes could be things like, staff is a need. Like we put a process in place. That's our strength. But the weakness is that we hadn't found people, and the opportunity is CIAA is coming, and we're going to need people. So it's staffing a theme. So like think about all four quadrants or two or three quadrants together, and like what kind of themes emerge, because those things will help you to determine what your strategic pillars are for this plan. And your pillars, if you think about our planning process, pillars are
Like those spaghetti that were holding it all up, right? Like your pillars hold up the wall. Your vision is your roof. So your vision should be your guiding post. It should be the thing that covers and protects it all. You always come back to your vision as like, if I understand these are my pillars, does that align with what I'm saying I want at the end of the day? And then we'll have these other pieces to go through.
But like just take a moment and see what, if any, themes emerge for you. How did you do with finding themes? You don't feel like you have any? Okay. If you don't have themes, do you have clear things that jump out as, whoa, we need to focus here? You definitely have those. Okay. Okay. Back over in the corner, key out this table. How do you either have themes or clear, like, whoa, need to focus here? Both. Okay, great. All right. All right, so your either themes or clear things that
you need to focus on.
I want you to try to identify between 2 and 5 is a lot, but it's still okay. 2 and 4
is ideal. Most companies have like 3
to 4, what they call strategic pillars or priorities for whatever like plan they have in place. So you might have organizational pillars as well, right? Like
organizational pillars are community, collaboration, confidence, right? But like for the strategic plan,
the strategic pillars are more the priorities work that we're doing. So, for example, and if you're struggling with them, the domains of the web could serve as your strategic pillars because they are the areas that most businesses really do need to focus on or put energy in: marketing and branding, your systems. So you can break systems down to financial management or fiscal responsibility. That could be a pillar by itself. It could be human resources could be a pillar of yours by itself, or it could fit into your overall systems. If you like, say you have a small company, you have just one big system that you kind of funnel all the pieces through, or you have one person on your team that functions.
That's like in a COO role, and because you're a small company, they do HR, they do the financial.
So that could be your systems or your operations pillar if you wanted to do it that way, or you could break them out. So we said marketing, we said branding, finances, HR, business development. So those are all some of the typical pillars that might exist as overall priorities. And you can write them out if it's helpful to you to write them as like a statement, like if you ask yourself, what's our priority? Or what are our priorities over the next year? If that's easier than thinking of in terms of pillars, or just like a one word thing, do it in a way that makes sense to you, but take a
minute now using what you found as either things that jumped out or themes, and
set up in the template that you received, the Excel template, that column A. Set up in column A, down that column, what your strategic priorities or strategic pillars are. So you got 2 documents, right? One was a SWOT, the other was an Excel that has multiple tabs. You want to use tab 1, that's the strategic plan. And in column A, set up your priorities. And we're only going to have time to really go through one, like fully. So If you aren't sure, but you know one of them for sure, you can just put that one in if you still aren't quite sure on the others. Does anybody have a strategic pillar or priority that they want to, like, that they can share? Just for if anybody's struggling. What became something for you? LaTanya?
I'm trying to strategic partnerships, like figuring out who to work with, who not to work with, who to partner with, who not. When should I say no? When should I say yes?
Okay, awesome.
It's human resources for me. Maintaining a qualified, competent staff has been challenging. And it's stopping my business growth. The business is there, but I don't have the bandwidth to really take it on. So that's an uphill battle for me always. But not always, I'm not gonna claim always. It's an uphill battle right now.
It was in 2019. Then.
Right, yeah, but we're not gonna claim it for 2020.
All right, so let's talk then about goals. So on the template, you have 1 to 2 big goals for 2020 area. So now that there's some strategic pillars, the things that are most important, you like put that on paper. And you could have more really big goals, but
I'd like to say that considering we're all small businesses, focusing on 1 to 2 big ones you'll still need multiple pillars and all that to get those 2 big ones done, right? So like for my business, one of my goals for the year is a revenue goal, which then my pillars break down to. And the other is, I should know this by heart. It jumped out. I cannot remember it. One is a revenue goal, and one is a goal about
our presence, like how we show up in the world. And so for a moment, take a few minutes and think about, and you probably already
know them, but like put it on here. What are those 1 to 2 big goals you have for the year for your business? The things by the end of this year,
the top of next year, the first quarter next year. And it's fine if this plan goes into a couple years. I like to do 1 year
plans for my business because we're young. We're young and we're small. So things can change drastically for businesses like ours, which is cool because we're flexible, we're agile, we can move. So you'll hear 3 to 5 year plans, and that's like for bigger companies that are pretty established and really they're just building on a very, very
So one of mine is to reimagine and repurpose services, but it's really like underneath that I have different projects, so I kind of get like a different place. Creating a streamline, a process for technical assistance, so refining those operations and how I intake clients, and then how to make sure I'm giving them services that they're happy with. That includes like communicating. So the first thing is a MailChimp campaign, and then creating a standard meeting process, and then developing.
Are you waiting?
I'm sorry.
You haven't gone into your strategies. We on goals. Anika, a strategic plan. Ruth?
My goal is to actually get a human resources plan because I'm complaining about not having staff, but I really don't have any strategies, nothing in place to even get staff. So I'm going to do a human resources plan. Yeah, I got to do one.
So we have a member who has a human resources business that was not here today, but her name is on the contact sheet. Nia Jones has a human resources business. And if Nia's not a fit, I know a couple other people who have human resources businesses, so I'll put you in contact.
I want to partner with several other like brand aligned businesses, starting with Folk in the Well. So I'm already partnered with Nia for some CBD tea blends. So I've already been working on that for a while, and with Jasmine for some of her wellness initiative. I want to figure out. We've been talking about it for a while. We're just trying to get the funding.
Y'all should have a tea party. Yes.
So I'm really, really excited about that, but that's going to be my big goal, to walk away saying that I've developed some type of partnership with women, Black women, own businesses.
In 2020. Got it.
Yes.
And so I start at the top of the year with big overall goals. Then what's going to get me to those goals, right? Those pillars, those priorities. Then what's my big goal for that particular pillar, so that I can accomplish what I need to accomplish, what my objective is for that pillar. And then I develop a way to, a how to, my strategy then. So I might say, like, if my big goal is a certain revenue goal, and one of my pillars then is business development. So if my big goal is to make $550,000 this year, and I know that I was at half of that last year, then, and I know that the way that I got to half of that was just by breathing. I mean, like, I'm just doing this for example. I know I didn't do any real business development work. I just sort of knew the people I knew and they sent business my way. Then, like, well, if I can get to half of that with no business development, then
one of my strategies needs to be like, or one of my strategic pillars is like, I can't just keep relying just on people referring. So I also need a way that I control to get business.
So then that becomes my pillar, this business development. And then my goal being that I get contracts in the amount of, I might say 300,000 just to push it a little further, but $250,000 by October 1st, because I want that last quarter to feel coasty. By October 31st or October 1st of 2020. And then my strategy for doing so might be that I develop or either buy a system by which I can review government opportunities, because there are tons of, I could get one project in the government that'll get me at 250. You know what I mean? So this is just the way I'm thinking, right? Like, you all could think about it totally different. Of course, your businesses are different. So I'm just trying to break down like the next layer of this, right? So you've got your pillar. Then what is your goal for this particular pillar, knowing that what your big goal is? So take a moment and do that. And then I think naturally when you're writing the goal, if you're writing a goal well, it's going to have in there like what the thing is you're doing. That would then also go in that strategy bucket, right? Like, that's the approach you're taking to get to that particular goal for that pillar. But any challenges with coming up with the strategy that would support that goal?
I can think of as far as the goals I have, I can think of 12 zillion ways to get out there. How do you prioritize those in the strategy category, though?
That's a great question. So because this is a skinny, right, strategic plan, what you could do, and I didn't want to have 7,000 rows going down. What you could do is add another row here, drop that pillar down there again, drop that goal down there again, and you could have 2 strategies. You could have 3 strategies. Most of the time, companies will have multiple strategies that support a particular goal. But 1, this is a skinny. 2, I want us not to create a plan that is not going to get done, right? And that is going to overwhelm. So if you are a small team, a team of, which most of all of us are, right? Like, if you're a team of 1 to 10 even, I know some people feeling like they got big teams now, but we're small. You're small when you have to deliver on, especially when even with your team, people are part-time or people are contractual. It's just different than being able to move when they can move with you, in sync with you all day, every day. So I was very intentional in creating it this way to get you to hone in, right? Like, which one will give me the most bang for my buck? Which one will most likely, with I don't want to say the least amount of effort, but the least troublesome effort, the effort I can afford, both in time, capacity, money, to get done and get done successfully, because it is most predictive of my success. So I always use the term with strategy, like that strategy is, what thing can I do that will be most predictive of success? And so even with those, you might end up with 2 or something, but you want to keep that terminology in mind, most predictive of success. What can I do? And that is the strategy I would go with. But your plan is iterative. So if you start down a road, I would say give it time, don't abandon like right away. But if you start down a road that is not supportive of where you need to go, or you shift gears at some point, then shift your plan. Yep, like the spaghetti sticks.
I don't know, this might be helpful, but what I did when I looked at my 2019, I literally wrote down the business and where it came from. And I think everybody could probably do that. Like, where did the business come from? And it helped me to reconfirm where I need to focus on getting my business from. It does, and then I added like 2 or 3 new things, but they're not gonna get the kind of energy that the tried and true is going to get. So then I said, well, how will I continue to maximize, and I'm not gonna be vague. So my business comes from referrals, right? So what am I gonna do to love on those people to give me the business? That's what I'm gonna big focus on. And then I need to continue to do some small things to get other business. But the time and the energy and the resources I committed would go to where the business comes from. And so that's what I need to continue to fill out for 2020. How will it, what will that look like? And how much will I spend?
So then, like with what Gersha is saying, like that would be a part of one pillar, right? And like for me, that pillar or that priority would be under business development, right? That would be my business development pillar, and then I would have if I had a goal under business development to, it could be like receive referrals from 90% of my clients from the last 5 years, and then acquire 5 new clients or something like that. Like if that is my goal, one, it's measurable, right? It's got some numbers attached to it. I can say, here's how I know I'm hitting it. And then the other part of it then would be, that's then the strategy piece where if she knows that most of her business is through referrals, then from a strategy standpoint, it's about some sort of marketing campaign or focus of work that's around loyalty, right? Because she knows that her people refer. So that would tell her which strategy she should put in place, because she could go down a bunch of roads when it comes to business development. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to 7 networking events a week. And it's like, well, actually most of my people are repeat people. So I really need to just be having, tea parties for the people that I've already done some work with or whatever the case.
So that's a question I had. So if that's like most of us continue to say our business has grown by referral, mostly. So what type of customer appreciation do you do? You know what I mean? Like I guess I'm looking for like maybe
Yeah, you're looking for real
like,
specific.
No, not so much, because you can have a referral program that's like a customer appreciation initiative, right? But like actually having an event, like you said, for your people to say, the ones that have been with you the longest, and say, okay, listen, I'm going to give you a shirt, or, so you can be like a market ambassador.
But from a strategic, so the reason I said you're getting real specific is because from a strategic planning standpoint, this is not the place where you get to nitty gritty, little details. This is the place where you see big, and you then use the next month or the next quarter to say, if this part of my plan is about loving on people who have referred or getting people to continue to refer, then this quarter is all about developing, or this month is all about developing what my loyalty program looks like. And then in month 2, this is what implementation of that looks like, because I have it in place. And month 2 and 3 is when I'm going to implement and test it, right? So that's why I say you're getting really specific, because you wanted to jump into a tactic.
So the pillar would be business development, the goal or objective would be
Your goal, yep.
program or loyalty, and then
Your goal would be what you want to get out of
okay.
the business development. I want to get 90% of my current or past clients to refer somebody to me this year, because my big goal is a revenue goal. So to get to revenue, I need to get business. And so my goal for business is to get referrals and new business. And then the way in which I'm going to do that is by developing a loyalty program, because I know, if I'm Gersha, that most of my business comes from referrals. So you see how it's so it starts here and then it gets smaller. So think of it like a Russian nesting doll.
I'm trying to figure out what to put at the top, and then where the
What is your big goal? Like, what do you want to accomplish this year? And I think for business, I mean, for all of us, the easiest thing to do is a revenue goal. That's the easiest. It can either be I want the same revenue I made last year. I want 100% more than what I made. And then you go from there of like, well, how did I make my revenue last year? And then how can so like I use an example of if I made this amount last year and I know I did that just based on all referral, I didn't do any business development myself, then I know that if I want to double it, so you see where? So I do think if you're struggling with a big goal, the easiest thing to do is to start with just one goal, a revenue goal. And you could build all your pillars off of a revenue goal alone. Now, if revenue doesn't motivate you, which I hope it does, you're in business, it doesn't have to be a sole motivator, but it should be a motivator if you are in business. We do not have to feel ashamed or whatever about wanting money. Give me my money, we're in business. I hope everybody in here feels good about collecting money.
So I have a question. So business development encompasses the marketing.
Hold on, ladies. Somebody's asking a question.
So the business development piece is a part of the pillars. It encompasses like the marketing and so forth that it takes to kind of build the business.
It could. So for me, business development is its own pillar for me because I also have a marketing goal. So I have my business development goal is really about the clients I want to bring in. So when you start to mix them up, it makes it really hard to get to the thing that needs to be done and to measure. When you separate them as business development is what I want to attain in terms of clients and clients, contracts, or customers, and marketing is about it's about right, like how do I want to appeal? How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want my business to show up in the world? So then your goal for marketing should be much more around the how you want your company reflected in the world. Any other questions? Yep.
So when thinking of pillars, what should we consider? So you just said,
Like what's too broad and what's too
yeah, so when I made marketing a pillar because you said, and then business development, but what else, like, and then all those things, because for me, when I was doing it, I was gonna put the loyalty program as a pillar and then do goals under that, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to.
But think about your loyalty program is a strategy or a tactic that you're using to an end. What's the end to which you're using? You're doing a loyalty program for what? And what is bringing in more clients? Revenue. What is bringing in more clients is business development. Okay. So business development is the pillar. That is the thing on which your business is standing, or one part. Revenue is an outcome. Revenue is not a pillar. Revenue is an outcome of all the work you do. You get all of this. You get money because you did some things. You marketed your business. You did the work. You had a business. You did business development. You have fiscal management or financial management in place. You did some professional development. So I can't tell you what your pillars should be, but I can tell you what some kind of generic ones are, like marketing, business development, financial or fiscal management, development. So like if you're a nonprofit, for example, or you have a nonprofit arm, development is usually one. Development meaning like fundraising and partnerships and all of those sorts of things. It depends on what your business is built on. So that's why you have to go back to your vision. What is your vision and what do you do and who do you serve? That will help you determine what your pillars should be. Your pillars are your priorities. So take that term away and just use the term priorities because we all know what priorities means. So if the jargon is what's throwing you, use the term priorities. What are your priorities for your life? Real easily. My kids, my family, my profession, my friends. So for your business, you should know them just like you know your personal ones. Yep.
I think also revisiting and really exploring the SWOT analysis.
Yes.
Pulls out those weaknesses and those strengths that you have for your particular business. So it's really spending some time and listing many, because you might be like, oh, I can't think of any more weaknesses, but no, you got to sit down and really evaluate it. And then from those weaknesses, make that, could be a pillar, or how you going to make them be better.
Right. So I can't remember, Anika, but you didn't have a chance to do the SWOT, right? No. Right. So that is, I think, why you're struggling with your pillars, because it's hard to see what your priorities are when it doesn't jump off the page at you where you're weak and where you're strong, and you need to continue to capitalize on where you're strong. So
It's like where to put them, so you saying like what you just said makes sense, like what a pillar should be is a priority. So that, for me, in my mind now, I know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So drawing an attachment to it based off of what I consider a priority.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, a revenue is the outcome.
Yeah.
A revenue goal is the outcome, so now I know where to put it.
right, but I would say do the SWOT. Do the SWOT, because we tell ourselves like, oh, I know, but like our minds make up a lot of stories. Like our minds make up a lot of stories. Just like a quick aside, I was feeling anxious about the start of the year. I always feel anxious about the start of the year, which is such a it's so silly, right? Because somebody decided that January 1 meant a new year, but like the reality was on December 1st and January 1 are no different, in terms of what was happening in my business or whatever. It's like, but I was feeling so anxious. So I sat down at the end of the year and did a 10-year review where I did just a column so I had all the years, 2010 to 2019 going down the line. And I had a column for highs and a column for lows. And I just started listing out highs that I remembered from each year and lows. When I say that I had like 5 lows on a whole 10 years that I remember. So I'm not saying I didn't have moments where I was upset or was anxious, but it wasn't anything that was memorable, that like mattered in the grand scheme of things, but literally ran out of space for my highs. And that was just something I needed to do to calm my spirit, because your mind tells you stories. Your mind makes up stories. And so I said all of that to say, like, well, one, I encourage you to do that, particularly if you're feeling anxious about all this hype of a new decade, a new year. I encourage you to do that because it'll reassure you, like, my good days outweigh my bad days, But the reason I brought that up was around the idea of your mind will tell you things. It'll tell you weaknesses that you might not actually have, or it will skip over weaknesses that you do have and focus on, your strengths. So putting it on paper is a totally different experience than just kind of playing it out in your head. Okay, so we're talking about this Russian nesting doll now, and so we've got our strategy for one thing. So then what's here is this breakdown of Q1 through 4. So this is how I like to iteratively plan. So for me, most of the time, almost always, I would say 98% of the time, it's got to be something big changed or happened. Do not touch my pillar, my overall goal, or my strategy most of the time, unless it's just sucking. But I tend to take a lot of time to think about it. I don't touch these once these are on paper for the year. These are like, I'm going with it, unless it really is not working out. And usually that's just the strategy, not the goal or the pillar. But these Q1, Q2, Q3, these quarterly goals and quarterly targets and then actions, those may change. So we've talked about, all right, now I'm saying that my particular strategy might be a loyalty program, right? Like in my business development. So that is big. When you just look at it on its face, you're like, whoa, well, what does that mean, right? So in quarter 1, so for the next step in this is to then break that down into those chunks of that elephant you can eat. So I like to reverse engineer things. And so I started with my strategy because that is, or my goal, because that's the end game. I want this. And I'm saying I'm going to do it this way. And then I will lay out on paper, what are the things I'm going to do? And then I don't automatically drop it in here because I need to lay it out as a list or a little differently. But ultimately, you want to have a list. Oh, this column's frozen, so you can't see them all on the screen. But Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, you want to have a target for each quarter. So what am I shooting to accomplish to that goal by the end of quarter 1? So then these end up being like incremental goals to that big goal. So if my big goal is I want 90% of my present and past to refer someone to me, and my strategy is going to be a loyalty program, in quarter one, what might I do? What might be my goal in quarter one? Quarter one, my target might be, I might put a goal, or I might put the big deliverable I want to accomplish. So the big deliverable could be I'm going to have a 90-day loyalty plan, or I'm going to have a loyalty plan in place. And then I can put like what key actions I'm going to take for that. So I'm just giving you two approaches to this. So I could here, whatever feels right to you, I could put what the thing is that I'm going to have, the bit or the piece of it that's going to be done, or I can have a goal here that breaks off of this goal. So if I want 90% of my people to have referred somebody by the end of the year, then a good target for me by the end of quarter one might be that I've gotten 15% of those people to refer. So then the actions I'm going to take then will be something like, I'm going to create the plan for the loyalty program by February 15th. And then I'm going to implement, and maybe I don't know what else my action is, what other actions I'm going to take yet. And I come back to this on February 15th. Or maybe I'm going to create the plan. I'm going to get somebody to mentor me or to coach me who I know does really awesome with loyalty programs. So you don't have to fill in all of these spaces, but I only put four actions, and that was intentional because this is not a to-do list. This is not your task list. This is, again, predictive of success lists. Most predictive actions of success. So everything in here should be about things that are just most predictive of your success. So think of this like a list of projects, if you will, or a list of big deliverables you want to have that support that thing you want to do. So I would only put in here a thing, not a thing I'm going to do. I want to put a noun in here, not a verb. So my noun would be a loyalty program. I'm not going to put in here, write a list of people who this is not a to-do list. You can make a to-do list using this. You can make your monthly plan or your weekly plan by going back to your strategic plan and looking at what's upcoming for you in that month or that quarter. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's do that for our one pillar that we have in place. Let's put those targets in place, whether it is a big thing you want to have done, a big thing you want, or a breakdown of that big goal in terms of the number. So again, in Gersh's instance, where it's a percentage of past and current people who refer. Quarter one, you might say, I'm going to break it down over the quarters. I want to have 25% each quarter. So
get the target actions, and how does that differentiate from the strategy? Like in terms of like her loyalty program, so that would be, what did she call it? Business development. So business development would be the pillar.
Yep.
A goal would be.
The goal would be that's your big goal. The goal would be where I keep repeating, I want 90% of my people to
come back.
Right, because that's the thing that's telling me I'm developing the business. Right. The strategy is the loyalty program. Think of strategy as an approach, the how.
The action then would be like an event then?
It could be.
Oh, okay.
It could be. But the action can, yes, the action does go, but it's not like plan an event. It's like, this is the thing I'm doing. Think of it as a noun, like it's a thing. It's tangible. You're not making a to-do list. Your to-do list will fall below the thing you're producing for yourself. So a thing is a plan, Andrea. So if you want a loyalty program and you don't know how you're going to do it, you're going to develop a plan, or you're going to participate in mentorship, or sort of like a coach, a class that something like that gives you what you need, right? Hire a person, sort of. It's so hard to get out of to-do list mode, but to-do lists are not strategic unless they're connected to something, to the strategy above it. Otherwise, that's why we find ourselves spinning. That's why you find yourself feeling like your time isn't managed, right? Because just listing. Lists will never end. Like, we will never run out of lists to make. Andre, go.
So my pillars, I don't know if they're too specific. So I had financial responsibility, customer connection, and then inventory management. And they came from my SWOT thing because I know I could be better about communicating with my customers in terms of once they order, and also like keeping up to date on my social media. And then like inventory management is more so like keeping my website stocked and things like that. And then financial responsibility, the back end, taxes, all that kind of stuff. So is that good, or is that like too specific?
If it works for you.
Oh,
So like for me, I probably would have bucketed 2 of those under one pillar called operations. And then those 2 things would have been strategies for me, or strategies for me, and not necessarily pillars. So the inventory, and then the
Customer connection or finance thing?
the finances. The inventory and the finance for me potentially, because you just talked about back end stuff. All of those are systems to me. So like all of those are like things, you get a system, you figure out what system you need, you get a system, you put that system in place, and you manage and monitor it and make adjustments along the way. And then, so I would have named that pillar operations, and had 2 strategies under it. But they can be pillars. But what I feel like if those are your only 3 pillars, I feel like there's a couple things missing for you. Like, one is marketing. Like, I almost feel like everybody needs to have a marketing pillar. Like, period. If you're struggling with what pillars to have on your thing, marketing is one of them. Like, period. Branding, marketing, that has to be, because how are you getting business otherwise?
But I guess I was thinking that with the connection thing, but that would be under that.
Right, the customer connections is potentially a strategy connected, or if your customer connections is really just about like building relationship with, and it's like a part of your communication or whatever. So like part of mine is like communication and engagement. But it just depends on, sort of the why. If you're doing it so that you stay in people's mind and they keep buying from you, then that's a marketing strategy.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
The social media.
Right. If you're doing it to build community, then it's marketing might be, sort of it is also marketing what you do, but if community truly is a pillar for you, then it could be a pillar itself. But if you're doing it so that it drives your business, right. Anybody else? Anybody want to share where they landed? Okay. All right, so let me show you. So we've gone through the process for one pillar. I would suggest you make some time for yourself, a day, away. I would leave your workspace. I would go somewhere that makes you feel creative, that makes you feel free. Because remember, this is an exercise of freedom, right? You're making your company whatever you want it to be. So somewhere that makes you feel free and not restricted, or not like I've got 9 million, reminding you that you have 9 million other things to do, because those things aren't going to go away. And finish this.